You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of sight. A dimension of mind. You are moving into a land where parents and the children can have fun together. You have just crossed over into Orlando Park's Insider. Disney MGM Studios, early 1990s. Amid the glitz and the glitter of a bustling young theme park in the height of the Disney Golden Age, MGM was a park without an identity and a thrill away for the theme park elite. And now something is about to happen that'll change all that. The time is now, on an evening very much like the one we have just witnessed. Tonight's story on Orlando Park's Insider is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. This is what you may recognize as the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, still in operation, waiting for you. We invite you, if you dare, to stick around, because in tonight's episode, it is our star, as we dive into the history of the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. In May of 1989, the Walt Disney World Resort officially unveiled their third theme park, the Disney MGM Studios. A part working film and animation studio, part theme park. Although fairly popular, it was often criticized for being a half-day park with only 2 opening day attractions, including the Great Movie Ride and the Backlot Studio Tram Tour. Disney would immediately follow up with the additions of Star Tours and the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular, but still there was work to be done. So how would Disney make the Disney MGM Studios a must-visit park? In the late 1980s, Disney was planning future projects for at the time under construction Disneyland Paris. An e-ticket attraction in development known as Geyser Mountain, a part roller coaster, part freefall attraction, would be placed in the Frontierland section of the park. This plan was also brought into the picture to place a Journey to the Center of the Earth based attraction that would be placed in Discoveryland. And as we all know, these plans were scrapped from Paris. But in Walt Disney Imagineering, no good idea has ever gone to waste. When it came time for the Disney MGM Studios' new expansion, the Imagineers wanted to include a drop tower attraction that would serve as an e-ticket to the new expansion. Several e-ticket attractions were considered, including a Dick Tracy Crime Stopper ride, which would end up becoming the Indiana Jones Adventure at Disneyland Park, an attraction based on Stephen King's novels, a Vincent Price Ghost Tour, or a murder mystery style attraction. But the concept that picked up the most steam was very close to being greenlit, which was an attraction themed around the stories of Mel Brooks. The attraction was first conceptualized as a drop tower attraction based on Young Frankenstein called Castle Young Frankenstein. Later in development, it would become Mel Brooks' Hollywood Horror Hotel. After multiple ideas and not being able to pinpoint a central story, Mel Brooks began to lose interest and would leave the project completely to go on to film the movie Life Stinks. After more brainstorming, and with a central idea around a haunted hotel, Disney Imagineers had finally found a property to center the attraction around, the Twilight Zone, a 1960s American anthology series created by Rod Serling. Disney would officially license the rights from CBS and begin to further move along the development stages of the attraction. The stage is set in an abandoned hotel in 1930s Hollywood. As the story goes, on an infamous rainy night in Hollywood, 5 people at the Hollywood Tower Hotel enter an elevator that will later be struck by lightning and will send the elevator plummeting. But the 5 people in the elevator were never found, as they had been completely transported into the Twilight Zone. But now it is your turn, as you check into the Hollywood Tower Hotel and will soon relive the same fate as the same 5 people from the story in your very own episode of The Twilight Zone. Now that the story was set, it was time for the construction of the attraction. For the attraction being a high-capacity storytelling drop ride with the ride vehicle being an elevator, Disney turned to a leading elevator manufacturer company, Otis, to help conceptualize and provide the high-speed drop shafts. The ride vehicles themselves were provided and programmed by Eaton Kenway, leading to the first Disney attraction featuring an AGV. Construction broke ground for the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in 1992 and was originally intended to open to the public on July 4th of 1994. The date was pushed back to July 22nd due to minor delays in the construction process, including the footprint of the attraction changing slightly due to a sinkhole near the intended construction site. The attraction was an immediate smash hit and would quickly become one of the most popular attractions at the Walt Disney World Resort. Through the years, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror would receive many updates that have continued to make it one of the best theme park attractions in existence. When the attraction first opened in 1994 to 1996, the attraction featured only one main drop in the drop sequence, as the elevator would immediately go up to the 13th floor where the doors would open, leaving you with a view of the MGM Studios, then plummeting you down to the attraction's basement. In 1996, for the Walt Disney World's 25th anniversary, a second drop was added into the attraction sequence that would last until 1999.
Enter the all-new Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. Rising to the occasion of our 25th birthday, it's now twice the fright it was before, thanks to a hair-raising new double drop. Travel to the height of fright in a haunted freight elevator for a gut-wrenching, faster-than-gravity freefall. Then, rocket back to the top of the shaft and do it again.
In 1999 to 2004, the attraction would yet again add another drop, bringing the total drop count to 3 drops.
Not to upset you, but we've added a little something to the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. More terror.
And from 2004 to present day, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror now has 4 completely different ride sequences that vary from 3 to 7 dizzying drops, which randomly get selected by computer during the ride sequence, leaving you with a different experience every time.
Tower of Terror 4 at the Disney MGM Studios. Never the same fear twice.
In 2010, as part of the Summer Night-tastic event, the ride had a temporary overlay where the 4 drop sequences were replaced by a single new sequence. The fifth dimension scenes were modified and effects added to the drop shafts. It lasted until August 14th of 2010, where the 4 profiles went back into service and the fifth dimension scene returned to its original appearance.
As you walk down Sunset Boulevard, you are immediately greeted by the 199-foot-tall Hollywood Tower Hotel. The queue begins with you walking through the gardens of the hotel, where eerie jazz music plays as a perpetual fog covers the overgrown plants. You make your way to the balcony and then enter the lobby. The lobby appears as it is stuck in time back to the infamous night in 1939. Covered in dust and cobwebs, it is a shell of itself of what used to be the beacon of show business, elite and crowning star of Hollywood. You are then sent into the hotel's library as you are awaited by the infamous pre-show to set the scene as shown here by our friend Gilbert Gottfried.
How is everyone? What are you people, tourists? First time in the big city, huh? Must be exciting. Anyway, this is the Twilight Zone Library of Terror. Ooh, spooky, isn't it? Anyway, we have to solve the mystery. How do we solve a mystery? By acquiring knowledge. And where do we get this knowledge? From a manual is one thing, but then you'd have to know how to read, and we don't want to bother you like that. So let's watch television.
Tonight's story on the Twilight Zone is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction. This, as you may recognize, is a maintenance service elevator, still in operation, waiting for you. We invite you, if you dare, to step aboard, because in tonight's episode, you are the star, and this elevator travels directly to the Twilight Zone.
Wow, a personal invitation from Rod Serling himself. What more can you ask for? Well, maybe a pastrami sandwich, some coleslaw, and a pickle on the side. But we'll have that later on. Anyway, let's go.
Once the pre-show is complete, you then head into the boiler room of the hotel, which gives off a very creepy vibe, and almost seems to put you in a scene straight out of a Freddy Krueger movie. You then board your ride vehicle, seating you and 20 other passengers aboard. Before you have any second thoughts, the doors close and the cabin ascends.
You were the passengers in common elevator about to ascend into the very heart of the structure.
Your first stop, a hotel corridor where you are greeted by the 5 ghostly apparitions begging you to join them.
One stormy night long ago, 5 people stepped through the door of an elevator.
As you ascend again, you are then in what looks to be a maintenance floor for the Hollywood Tower Hotel until your ride vehicle does what no elevator has done before and moves forward through the scene. As you move through the scene, the maintenance room soon transforms into the 5th dimension, the Twilight Zone. As you head towards the fading star field, the doors open to the main drop shaft as you are about to partake in the moment you have been waiting for, a 13-story, uncontrollable freefall ride straight out of the Twilight Zone. Once the drop sequence is complete, you are greeted once again by Rod Serling as he welcomes you back to reality and leaves you with a fair warning.
A warm welcome back to those of you who made it, and a friendly word of warning, something you won't find in any guidebook. The next time you check into a deserted hotel in the dark side of Hollywood, make sure you know just what kind of vacancy is filling, or you may find yourself a permanent resident of the Twilight Zone.
Once you exit the attraction, you then walk through the gift shop filled with many different merchandise items promoting the attraction or other spooky artifacts.
And that will conclude the attraction tour of the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. I would like to thank my friend Christian again for being able to narrate this portion of the video. If you have not, please be sure to subscribe to his channel at Theme Park Horizons. The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror may easily be the most technologically advanced Disney attraction ever attempted. From redundant safety systems to using the state-of-the-art technology mixed with the best optical illusions dating back hundreds of years, it is an understatement to say Tower of Terror is a masterpiece. One of the most fascinating scenes from the attraction from a special effects standpoint is the first corridor scene, which from some may seem like the closest thing to magic, but is quite simple and uses a mix of old tricks dating back centuries to create the illusion of a haunted hotel corridor. The hotel itself is a giant forced perspective tunnel where the front of the hallway near the elevator is normal sized, but as you move into the end of the hallway, it drops all the way down to only about 4 feet, giving the illusion the hallway is a lot longer than it really is. The appearance of the ghostly apparitions is a common practice of the Pepper's Ghost effect, which was made famous by the ballroom scene in the Haunted Mansion. This is made possible by a giant piece of glass placed at a 45-degree angle in the middle of the hallway. An extension of the hallway which is hidden from the guest perspective has a projector and another piece of glass angled 45 degrees to the piece of glass in the hallway, giving the ghosts the appearance of standing in the middle of the hallway from the guest's point of view. During the scene, the hallway goes dark and transforms into a giant star field. This is done by the glass panel in the hidden corridor moving out of place to reveal fiber optic cables that are used to create a star field. The walls in the corridors are scrims made out of fabric, where many other fiber optic cables are placed along the hallway. The elevator cart itself also features some as well, creating the complete illusion of a star field. At the end of the corridor, the back of the hallway disappears to a star field, but also includes a scene of a floating window that later shatters. The wall at the end of the corridor is a rear projection screen with a projector placed on the opposite side. At the beginning of the scene, a normal wall with a window is projected, but when the starfield sequence begins, it projects just a window, giving the effect of it floating in the middle of a starfield. Eaton Kenway and Walt Disney Imagineering worked together to take Eaton Kenway's autonomous warehouse vehicles and adapted them for theme park use. The new Autonomous Guided Vehicle, or commonly known as an AGV, follows a series of wires underneath the floor surface that communicates with the AGV using a metal plate that rides very close to the floor. The wires transmit information to the ride control computers to the AGV, such as speed, direction, and orientation.
The vehicle is actually equipped with a sensor plate underneath here that rides very close to the floor surface, and it picks up computer signals from the wire to guide the vehicle, wire guidance system, to guide the vehicle along its path. It tells it speed, direction, it reverses forward, it actually even turns to the side. So there's a lot of signals that can be transmitted between the two that actually tell the vehicle how to move in its positioning.
The system is very sensitive and is a contribution to most of the attraction's downtime. If an object is in the way or covering a wire, the signal will be lost and stopping the attraction completely. The system is also very safe, as it can detect objects to 1/10 of an inch, assuring the safety of the guests in any situation where the track is blocked. The vehicles drive themselves in and out of the scenes into the various drop shafts in the attraction. There are a total of 6 drop shafts in the Tower of Terror, 4 of them being purposed for the loading stations in the first half of the attraction, and 2 for the main drop sequence. You may be wondering how that is possible, but Tower of Terror is split into 2 sides, or 2 ride loops that run their own separate cycle. Each side has 2 loading shafts, either being Alpha and Bravo, or Charlie and Delta, that each share 1 drop sequence shaft, being either Echo or Foxtrot. The drop shafts were helped designed and manufactured by leading elevator manufacturer Otis. The attraction's max drop height is 130 feet, but the shafts themselves go much higher into the top of the tower. The ride shafts max out at 157 feet, and the top 42 feet of the tower is utilized for the elevator car's motors. There is also a distance that the elevator carts themselves need to slow down by, which is the lower 40 feet of the shaft itself, which is utilized for braking the car itself, leaving a total of 90 feet for a maximum speed drop. The drop shafts themselves are based on traditional traction elevators. Each shaft uses 2 giant induction motors. In the 2019 refurbishment, these motors were converted from DC power to AC power, giving the motors some extra torque, and from our personal experience, makes the ride more forceful than ever. Each motor weighs nearly 132,000 pounds and has the capability to generate more than 2,000 horsepower. Each motor is connected to 2 cable drums in a series with 1 solenoid brake at the end of each drum, giving the shaft a total of 4 brakes. 2 cables from the first drum extend through the floor to the top of the elevator car, which travels along a rail of tracks connected to the walls of the shaft. Each cable is more than strong enough to support the weight of a car and a fully loaded vehicle, but 2 cables are used for over-engineered safety. 2 other cables are wrapped around the second drum in the opposite direction. They are attached to a counterweight that rides along its own set of rails that weighs identical to a ride vehicle with no guests, making the motors only need to generate the total force of the 21 guests on the ride vehicle. 2 more cables run from underneath the counterweight that run around the compensation pulley at the bottom of the drop shaft, which then connects to the bottom of the elevator car, making a closed loop that allows the motors to pull the elevator downwards at such a rapid rate with a top speed of 39 miles an hour at a force faster than the speed of gravity. In terms of safety measures, Tower of Terror features multiple amounts of redundant safety systems. The 4 solenoid brakes are wrapped around the 2 drum loops with friction pads that extend from a brake arm and are connected to a preloaded spring. In its natural position, the brake pads are always engaged and wrapped around the drums. When power is supplied, the spring engages, moving the brake pads off the drum. In the event of a power outage, this will completely stop the elevator shaft from moving, as once the power is cut, the brakes engage in their natural position, stopping the elevator car completely. If this system were to fail, then a mechanical speed governing system on the elevator car would activate emergency friction brakes that clamp onto the elevator guide rails. There is a similar system that is also used with the counterweight on its track. There is also a safety system that would engage if the elevator cables were to snap. If all 4 of these systems were to fail, which would be astronomically unlikely due to its over-engineered safety redundancy, then the falling elevator would create a cushion of compressed air at the bottom of the shaft that would help slow the fall. There are 2 shock absorbers at the bottom of the shaft that would help break the fall as well, but these are not designed to stop a fully loaded vehicle dropping at its top speed. But this has never been a problem, and quite possibly never will, due to the over-engineered safety systems on the ride and the frequent maintenance the attraction receives, as Disney is all about safety first. For those of you wondering how do the vehicles continue to run for over 12 hours a day for 365 days a year? At the unload station in each shaft, an induction charging system on the floor charges up the vehicle itself, as guests exit the attraction. Similar to how a wireless iPhone charger works, but a lot more powerful. The vehicles are charged up just for the right amount for one complete ride cycle. The vehicles only need power for the onboard computer system for the vehicle's movements in the Twilight Zone scene, and moving from the main drop shaft to the unload and back into the loading shaft. This is one reason why the ride vehicle does not contain any audio or lighting system, instead being placed on the elevator shaft cars and inside the ride scenes themselves. For 26 years and counting, the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror continues to thrill millions of visitors a year to this very date. Although the attraction's future may not be so certain, with rumors circulating of potential rethemes, I am very confident we will be able to experience the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror for many more years to come, as it continues to stand as the symbol of Disney's Hollywood studios and a staple to the Walt Disney World Resort. We thank you again for dropping into this featured presentation of Orlando Parks Insider. For more, please be sure to subscribe and leave a like and a comment below. Also be sure to share this video with a friend so they can relive the same journey into the Twilight Zone as you did. And if you have any future recommendations or requests for our next documentary of a Walt Disney World or Universal Orlando attraction, be sure to leave it in the comments, as your suggestion might be featured for our next video. As always, thanks for dropping in. We will see you next time here at Orlando Parks Insider.